everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Public Opinion Show with Pam and Vanetta. Hey, Vanetta.
Hello.
Hey, hello. We're not in the studio this week. We're trying out the studio, and we're going to eventually get back to it. But I'm glad we did that. That was a whole lot of fun. And we're back this week with a whole nother episode. And so how are you, Vanetta?
I'm good. I'm not looking forward to the cooler weather, but it's coming.
Oh, see, I love the fall. I told you before, that is my absolute favorite season of the year. I know you don't like the fall, but I love it. I just love it. I love to see the different colors of the trees. I like to be able to wear a lot of different clothes. So I just really like the fall.
If fall was not followed by winter, I'd be okay with.
Okay, just fall for no reason. Just let the leaves come off and then go back into being warm. Is that what you think?
Yes. If it could go, just a long fall and then a spring.
Okay. All right. Well, what have you been up to over the last couple of weeks?
Well, let's see. I'm planning a big benefit for work, so I've been busy with that. And I had a party last month. My husband and I turned 60, and this past weekend, I went to my college homecoming at Central State, and we had the best time. I mean, they brought back 75 years of Miss CSUs, which was lovely to see. I went to the game, and so since I went to the game, I tailgated and had to. I was so impressed with what people were cooking. Somebody fried a whole turkey right now.
You know what? People now take tailgating to a whole nother level. Okay. And it is. They take it to a whole nother level. Okay, so I'm excited about our discussion this week. we have some pretty, I think, dynamic people or participants, and I think we have a really good subject that people have already been discussing, and I think it's something that's worth us discussing as well. So, you
had to be under a rock if you haven't heard any discussion about it.
That's correct. So we're going to get started and meet our participants for this week. First, we have Ariane Kirkpatrick. Ariane is the president and CEO of the AKA team, a 13-year-old service commercial construction and facilities company based in Cleveland. In addition, Ariane is the CEO of Harvest Groves, Harvest of Ohio, and Harvest Processing Companies with provisional large-scale medical cannabis cultivation, dispensary, and processing licenses for operations in Irontown, Beaver Creek, Columbus, and Athens, Ohio. Next, we have Judge Lauren Moore. Judge Lauren Moore has served on the Cleveland Municipal Court for 18 years. She has presided over the Greater Cleveland Drug Court for the past 6 years. A graduate of Shaker Heights High School, Spelman College, and Case Western Reserve University School of Law, Moore has previously been an attorney for the Legal Aid Society, the chief prosecutor for the city of Cleveland, and a grand jury prosecutor for Cleveland and Cuyahoga County. She is the recipient of numerous awards and recognition for her dedication to the legal profession and to the community. And finally, we have Drake Perry. Drake is currently a graduating senior at Central State University, where he is seeking a degree in business administration with a concentration in marketing. He is also a retail sales representative at Harvest of Ohio, a medical marijuana dispensary. All right, so that's wonderful. I cannot wait to hear what our participants have to say. So let's get started. Well, welcome, and thank the both of you. I really thank you all so very much for agreeing to be participants on the show this week. I'm looking forward to the discussion and hearing what you all have to say in response to the public opinion question of the week. So we're going to get started and see what that public opinion question is. Should recreational marijuana use be legalized in all states? All right. So I am going to let Ariane start and answer that question. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to answer, so you can go ahead.
Okay. I 100% believe that it should be legal in all states. If you look at the history of why and how it became a Schedule I drug, it was really based on racism. There was the gentleman who started the war on drugs, Anslinger. He just really had it out for the Native American and Black community, and he considered it to be a drug that he saw that was being prosperous for those of a different race and not the white race. Matter of fact, he's pretty much known for saying that reefer makes darkies think they're as good as white men. So if you look at the history on how it became a Schedule I drug, you will understand, which really, when that started, it set a whole system in place to make the criminalization and the overcharging of folks that look like me. So there's so many reasons. So that's the first reason. And recently, with President Biden coming out, and many people, I was at cardiac rehab the other day, and they said, oh, well, it's only going to help 6,500 people in the whole United States. That's stupid. No, that's really making a statement. It's making a statement so that we can change the narrative of what happens state by state. And if you don't change it federally, because it is a Schedule I drug, we're still going to have a lot of the issues, and that's a big problem. It's not a gateway drug. Right now it's medicinal here in Ohio. I think recreational, it'll be good. And then one of the big reasons that I think so is we have a lot of regulations. It's tested. We have testing agencies and laboratories to make sure that the product is good. I had a friend that I went to school with, unfortunately, great student. I believe it was valid, one of our top 10 scholarship. Unfortunately, he had marijuana that was laced with embalming fluid. You're not going to have that when you have a drug that's tested. It changes the whole dynamic of the safety of individuals that are using it.
All right, great. That was a great answer. And I can't wait to get into the discussion about that. And go ahead, Judge Moore.
Good evening, and thanks for inviting me. This is a very, very good question. I think it's very topical in light of what the president just did. And whether it should be legalized in all 50 states is something I'm still grappling with. I am the drug court judge, and I do see people who come into my court that have very bad addictive behaviors. And we're dealing with service providers who have a policy that addictive behavior, whether it is because of opiate use or cannabis use or whatever, is bad. And so when I wear my drug court judge hat, I would say that no, that's not a good thing to legalize drugs, because some people think that it encourages use. And we have a problem with young people. With them, it seems like marijuana is the new water. And I do think that there is a little bit of gives them a lack of drive sometimes. I think they replace doing things that are positive with marijuana use. And, I don't want to sugarcoat things, but we do have a lot of young people who are sitting around not doing anything, not motivated, and marijuana is a hobby. And so I do have a problem with that. However, I do think that it should be decriminalized, because the enforcement of marijuana, as Ariane said, has been enforced irregularly. Absolutely, there are disparities in the enforcement. For every 4 Black people who get arrested, there's only 1 white, and that's really, really bad. And they use marijuana at basically the same rates per capita. And so we have a problem with that. They also use marijuana as a pretextual reason to stop and search vehicles and doing all that. And police say, oh, I smell marijuana, it was burnt. Oh, I smell marijuana, it was raw. And they know the difference, and they know this, and they, step out of the car. And if that's the only reason to stop somebody and arrest them and pat them down and all that, then I have a problem with that. So, I'm sure you all know that Mayor Jackson did decriminalize marijuana. He signed legislation Blaine Griffin was the catalyst that started that. And so anytime we get marijuana tickets, and I don't think we get a lot of new marijuana tickets anymore, but when we do, they're summarily dismissed. But that doesn't stop some police officers from still charging people with it. So
All right, great.
decriminalization, maybe not legalization.
My stance on the legalization of marijuana in all states is different by state, but I generally answer the question of no, it should not be legalized. And the reason why is because growing up in Ohio, it was never legalized. And, also going up to Michigan and seeing the market and seeing the oversaturation and, studying the economies and studying the benefits of it, not just in the medical world, but also financially, it has different emphases, it has different benefits somewhere and it's emphasized elsewhere. So in California, it's really good because the cultivation is starting from the ground up. So you have cultivators who can grow, process, and produce, and they have different regulations as far as what they can purchase and who they can purchase from. So it's a lot easier. But I generally say no, it should not be legalized.
All right, well, we're gonna have a good discussion. Because we have Ariane, and this is great because Ariane is like, in fact, she's like, yes, absolutely. And she gave a great historical reason for it. And Judge Moore gave a practical reasons. She said she doesn't in a way because it basically you're saying it could lead to more criminality and messes with people's minds a little bit, makes them slow. And Drake is like, no, he doesn't think it should be legalized for recreational use. So before we get into our full panel discussion, Vanetta, what is your position? What do you think?
Well, my thought is, I don't want to see it used for recreational use. I have a problem with that just because of what Judge Moore said. I have a family member who I believe just didn't live up to their potential just because they indulged in marijuana constantly, and they cannot function without it now.
Okay. Well, I actually think though that it should be legalized because it can be regulated. And I think that's what's needed. I think it needs to be regulated so that we can make sure that in the production of it is not laced with things, that people are not going to get sick from it, and that they know exactly what they're getting. They can go someplace that's clean. They can go somewhere where they know that what they're getting is going to be safe. Also, I think it could add revenue, to the state. So my opinion is yes, I do. So this is great. So Ariane, you touched on the fact that President Biden had announced that he was going to be pardoning, convictions. And so you also alluded to the fact that it does need to start at the federal level and maybe trickle down, because right now that's still not going to help at the local level. So what do you think about that?
Most definitely, especially in the banking industry, because since it is a Schedule I drug, many of your vendors, many people take advantage of that, and everything costs so much more. When we see that it is a Schedule I and it is legalized across the board legally, we'll see the prices come down. You may get real estate that is 17% higher just because it's in the cannabis business. You can't get a bank account, so your fees are different. The taxes are different because you can't have certain write-offs. And when you have proper regulation, and I believe the state of Ohio has done, many people think it's over-regulated, and I think it's gone beyond, it's a little crazy, but when you have more eyes on it, I think that we'll see things as far as the safety and not the, like you said, the lacing of drugs, because it has to be tested. It's not tested when it's on the street now.
Right. And so, and Judge Moore, you said you think it should be decriminalized. And I think in Ohio, it has become somewhat decriminalized. But what do you think then should happen if it's not legal for recreational use? And if people are caught with it, what do you think should happen to those people?
Well, that's a good question. And I guess, if you get caught somewhere, the police could confiscate it because they still have that authority to confiscate. They still have the power to give you a ticket, even though it might be thrown out or will be thrown out, at least in Cleveland. sometimes you can still, it can be a civil fine. They're doing that in some places. So there are things that you can do, but to your point about the regulation. I mean, also this underground economy is very dangerous. And I mean, I know somebody personally who lost their son, and they were just selling marijuana, and he got killed because they robbed him. And so that's another reason for the regulation. And again, decriminalization at the very least. Anything to stop the the laser focus on what Black kids are doing, primarily young blacks, because that pulls them into the criminal justice system, and they can't get loans, they can't get student loans, they can't get housing. There's so many things, and so there's pros and cons on both sides. And
so Drake, what do you think about that though? Because if you're not for it, legalizing it, what do you think about decriminalizing it, or how police officers stop people and they could just say, oh, well, we smell marijuana, which may just be a reason for them to pull over, especially our Black and brown young men such as yourself?
Well, my opinion specifically stems from the medical use from it specifically. My opinion on the police is, it should be decriminalized as far as if you're caught with a specific or a user's amount opposed to a seller's amount, within reason, and there's regulations. I think, a ticket or some type of fine is, within reason. But as far as jail time or any, appearing before a judge, I think that's a bit above, over the top. But my general opinion is that the legalization of marijuana takes away from the medical patients that do access marijuana through the medical, retail stores like a dispensary. So the minute that medical marijuana is also in addition to recreational marijuana, that medical patient is no longer, they're no longer priority, because everybody can access those products now. So there's now marijuana for recreational users and there's marijuana for medical users as well.
Well, then maybe though the people with a medical marijuana card could, I don't know, does insurance pay for that? I mean, because I don't have a medical marijuana card. So
Not at Harvest, it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Not across the state, but once it does become legal, there are some bills that I feel that you would be able to get prescriptions for medical marijuana. And you see some states that have medical and recreational, facilitate greatly. And many people want to keep their medical card because they do get certain benefits. It does help them. And they feel confident that the industry will change, that the pharmaceutical companies and all will allow that to be covered at one time. So many of them choose to stay where they have it recreational and medicinal in those states.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't know how that was working. So if you have a medical marijuana card, you just still have to pay for it yourself. There's no kind of, like you said, there's no insurance or nothing, no subsidy or anything that will help a person who actually needs it for medical reasons?
So not necessarily for medical, the price will be the same across the board, but you do have some veteran discounts that you can give, and you have low income discounts that you can receive. Yeah.
Well, now with the medical marijuana card, isn't it regulated as to how much you can have for consumption in a period of time?
Yes.
Now see, that part of it, I think, how would you do that when it becomes recreational? Can I just buy marijuana every day, all day?
Just like you buy a fifth or a liter,
I mean,
you buy rum or vodka.
Yeah.
It's just that same way. So,
but Ariane, you can't smoke the medical marijuana, right? It has to come in another form.
oh no, you can smoke. Well,
You can.
Now that you can't in Ohio, you're not supposed to
in Ohio, you cannot smoke it, but you can vape it.
Yeah,
And many people, we sell flour. Many of them, that's where it comes from, the bud, the flower. So some people may choose to do that. It's technically not legal, but medicinal. Typically, you have gummies.
Yeah.
You vape. you have a
Tinctures,
salve,
what they call tinctures or
tincture, yeah.
tinctures,
Yeah.
oils and that
Topicals.
type of thing. Right.
Top- yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I'm wondering if it's legalized, just like with alcohol, would there be a certain level and then they would consider you to be like under the influence, like with alcohol, you can only have a certain amount in your system. So would you think that would help if there was a way to say, okay, you can only have this certain amount, and if you're above that, then you could be maybe charged with being under the influence or something like that?
Oh, most definitely. With anything, with certain drugs right now, when you have a certain percentage, because there's a 5 scale or a 7 scale that they have on checking the drug limit that you have in there. And if you're found to be inebriated from anything, whether it's drug or alcohol, that's an issue.
So that's another thing I was thinking. That's another way to regulate it, is to say to do it just like that. If you have more than this in your system, you can, or even say you can only purchase this amount at a
Right.
store. Now, of course, they may not know you can go to another store, but at least they know at that store you can only get this amount. I know my daughter lives in Los Angeles, and in California I went because out of curiosity, I said, I want to see what this looks like. And I went in and they have stores like every other street, they have a store, but it was very well regulated. It was clean. They had security guards. They had people showing. This one lady was showing me all kinds of stuff, like I was going to be some big time buyer or something. But she was showing me all the different. She had brownies and gummies and suckers and mints and just all different kinds of things, vapes and. But it was all done in a very professional way, and so sometimes I think of people buying now that it's not legal. Just kind of like on the street, somebody just give you some, you don't know what you're getting.
Right.
So that's why I just think it should be, legalized. And plus most people are smoking it. A lot of people are using it anyway. And I just think that it can be used to criminalize people more than what they need to be criminalized. So what do all of you all think about that?
Right. And I think that, the free market has a say in it also, because you might have a job that you get drug tested in. And if you test positive for even marijuana, you can get suspended.
Yeah.
Even if you want to work at the court, and you probably have the same thing in the county. If you test positive, we don't do random drug tests, but if you're trying to get a job, it can jeopardize your work there. And so that's something. Of course, there's some jobs you don't want anybody. I don't want bus drivers and pilots and people like that being able to use recreational marijuana. I don't feel comfortable. But again, I said there's pros and cons to it. And I'm glad we have Ariane, who has a great dispensary and who can deliver some, safe product to people. And
yeah, she taught me a lot because I didn't know that aspect about the what did you say was the Native American? Who was it that was making the money?
Anslinger. I usually accidentally call him Ass Singler, but his name is Anslinger. And he is the actually the creator of the war on drugs, and the whole war on drugs based on racial connotations and his beliefs. He's the one that really went after Billie Holiday. Especially
that's right.
From the movie.
Right.
I know who you're talking about now.
Yes. Because
and actually the name marijuana is racist too, because it's Mexican. And so when they used to call it cannabis, then they changed it to marijuana in the 30s because they want you to, be scared of Mexicans and immigrants and
they wanted you to associate it with something negative.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that either.
And it just went after blacks and hippies. Anybody else could use it with impunity.
Yeah, because when I was growing up, people used to just call it reefer. They used to call it reefer. Weed or reefer, and then you get a nickel. People got a nickel bag, and then it was And so
but it was always associated with us and hippies, even though white folks are using it all the time. I mean.
Well, then they put out the gateway drug. That's why I was always extremely concerned about it. They were like, it's a gateway drug. You smoke a little weed, then you're going to start doing crack cocaine in the morning.
What you say in the morning, but I don't think that, I think
And
that's
that was
a
an
myth.
exaggeration, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a
Totally
myth.
exaggerated. It is a myth.
Yeah.
I've never done crack cocaine or cocaine, and I have smoked marijuana
Mhm.
back in the day. Do not smoke it now just because of asthma and all, but I do use edibles, and I do
Mhm.
use salves and use honey in my tea, and it relaxes me.
Mhm.
Medicinal purposes for it, for a lot of pain. But I wanted to touch base on something that Drake said as far as in Detroit. So it can be oversaturated. Just because you legalize, you still have to make sure you have regulations on it. And so some of the way that I have seen it in Michigan, every corner, just not the clean appeal. I'm not sure what they're doing as far as the regulations on testing. Just would like to see it, make sure we do it. But just like you see a state store, like to make sure that those guidelines are followed. But one of the reasons that they did it, and you see it, unfortunately, is because of the quote unquote way they wanted to do social equity. So we're just going to open up just a few of these stores that aren't highly regulated, that aren't really following the guidelines that need to be done. And we're just going to let you sell. They have some crazy rule that you can grow 5 plants and you have 3 people that you're allowed to give it to. I mean, it's the biggest, craziest farce I've ever seen. And it's really not economically helping that community. So when you do legalize it, make sure that you have some true meat to it that really helps the community grow. Because really, it gives more jobs. Which one of my favorite employees is on here and has a job in that career. So it helps with the economics of a community, and especially with the social equity. We can brag about in Harvest, we're over 50% minorities, the folks that they really targeted to charge. Also, commercial real estate. You need places for the cultivation sites. More people that look like us are in agriculture, legal agriculture, different careers. Chemistry. I have a chemistry student that's running our processing, a young Black man. So it just opens up so many different careers and educational opportunities, job opportunities, career opportunities, opportunities in general for people that look like us.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm glad that you did say that, because like I said, if it's done well, it could only benefit. But just left to people's own devices, that's not helpful. So if people are going to be doing this, do it in a way that it's regulated, do it in a way that it could be a benefit to everybody involved. And so that's just the way I look at it. And
I agree.
Yeah.
Now I have to full disclosure. I've been taking gummies for maybe about the last month to help me sleep, and I sleep very well recently. I have to say.
Now, do you have a medical marijuana card?
I do have a medical marijuana card. I would not obtain anything illegally. I can have as much as I want.
Oh, as much as you want. Now
Within
that's
a 45-day period.
Okay. Now that's a good thing, and I'm glad you said that, Vanetta. And I do want to know this, and Ariane or Drake, you can answer this, or maybe you, Vanetta. What do you have to do in order to get a medical marijuana card? What do you have to have going on with you in order to qualify for that?
Well, you must be seen by a physician, and there is a number of questions that they inquire about. You must have a condition, and I had multiple things going on. I had sciatica at the time, chronic pain in my back, mental illness, and problems sleeping. Okay, and so I qualified based on all of those factors.
Okay. And so then they ask you these series of questions, and then they determine, do they tell you like what form you should have, or that's up to you, whether you want the gummies?
Actually, I had told her that I had something before and it didn't affect me. And she said that I had a negative attitude towards marijuana, and that it came from years and years of being told not to consume it. So she suggested that I try tinctures, that they would go into the bloodstream and be absorbed, and different things. And then when I went to Harvest, and the gentleman there gave me great recommendations as to what would work best for me, and even how to combine things so to work them out. So I've gotten creams, I've got chocolate bars, I have gummies. I mean, I represent.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Well, to piggyback off what my mother said, when you are getting your medical card, we tend to find that there are recommendations from your physician, but the physicians aren't working in the industry. So it's not the same as, prescribing something like an opiate for pain management. The cannabis industry is more trial and error. So when you do get that recommendation from your physician, it's always, subject to change, because we tend to hear that recommendation from your physician. Then you get into the dispensary where you're working with the actual retail experts, in my opinion, and they can tell you something different from your physician because we're working in the industry. And a lot of times we have a unique staff at Harvest, at least, because a lot of our employees also are patients as well. So they can have a live in the flesh, opinion on those products to tell you this does this does that, opposed to the listed effects, maybe.
All right. Well, that's great. And I'm glad that you all said that. So for people out there like myself, who I didn't really even know really what you had to do to go about getting a medical marijuana card, because I never had any use, for it. I just rub some cream on myself, if I'm having aches or pains or whatever. But maybe I should go to a doctor and see if there's some other things that or reasons that I could use it. But Ariane, I just want to congratulate you, because now, are you the only minority in Ohio who has this license, or what? I just want to make sure I'm saying that correctly.
Actually, the only minority and female that's vertically integrated, which is a big deal in this industry, which means that we have dispensaries, cultivation sites, and processing. We hold all three licenses, and it's really good to be in that position. It helps us facilitate and understand a lot of the industry. There's only 58 dispensaries in the state of Ohio. They just gave 77, and it's only 2 minorities that are owners. For the processing, there are 4 processors out of, I believe, 50, might be
Wow.
30 something. And for the cultivation sites, it's only 15 cultivation sites that are tier 1, and it's only 1, and that's me.
Wow.
But it's a good thing, but it's a sad thing.
Ooh.
It is.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's impressive though. So I just really want to congratulate you on that, because, you can corner the market on this. And I'm telling you, and I do believe it is going to be legalized for recreational use. So, so congratulations for that. Also, congratulations, because you are going to be the recipient of the Economic Empowerment Award that's going to be given by the 100 Black Men of Cleveland. So congratulations to you on that. And thank you so much, Judge Moore. I'm so proud of you and everything that you do as well. And Drake, congratulations to you I'm sure you're one of the top sellers at Harvest of Ohio. So I'm so grateful to all 3 of you for agreeing to be participants this week, because I do believe this is a subject that a lot of people are talking about and can be helpful to others. So thank you all so very much.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me, guys. See you.
Oh, I enjoyed that. I thought that was great. I think we had good participants. I mean, just so I am just so happy to have Ariane in our presence. I'm telling you, she is going to really take off, I believe, especially when it is legalized. And I know it's going to be legalized.
And she's a rising star for sure, and very level-headed and very kind to her community.
Yes, absolutely. And I really enjoyed the perspective that Judge Moore gave, as a jurist. And, and it's true, she has to weigh a lot of different things in making a decision about that. But I think she brought a good perspective to it. Yeah. And Drake also, I can understand his perspective as far as saying that it shouldn't be legalized. So I think this is something that people have been discussing for a long time, and I think it's going to be something that people will continue to discuss. So
I do too, and I always think Ohio is always behind the curve, but when we do actually legalize it, I think we will have it well regulated, and it'll be a better process than other states.
Right, and I think that's the key, is to make sure that it's regulated and done in a proper way. And I think it can be. So I really enjoyed this discussion. If you enjoy watching us and if you enjoy the subject matter, continue to watch us on YouTube as well as on Facebook. And we'll see you again for another episode of Public Opinion. Bye-bye.